Hello and welcome to episode 6 of Beyond the Blue Line. We've got a full squad tonight. Ed's returned. Ed, how are you?
I'm good, thank you, Scott. How you been doing? Feels like it's been a while since I've seen your smiling face.
Well, no one says I'll smile, so that's a good one. Stu, how are you, mate?
Yeah, very good, very good.
Good stuff. Right, well, we'll get straight into this episode and we'll kick off with Blaze forward, Michael Regush. Michael, how are you?
Good. How you guys doing?
We're all good. We'll get the elephant out the room. We'll talk about Sunday's game. You've got one goal on the column, but that other one, that was a goal, wasn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. The Sky Dome cameras didn't help us out, I guess, when the refs took a look at it. So I seem to think it was, but it was a split panel. What did you guys think?
Yeah, we were in the fourth.
There's a force field. It's a goal.
Yeah.
I thought it went in. I've looked at the highlights. I still think it was a goal. I've not seen anything to change my view.
Let's I'll put it this way. Let's hope we're saving the good bounces for the stretch, the quarterfinals, and then the final four there. So that's the way I'll choose to look at it.
I was going to say that's a very diplomatic way of thinking about it, Mike, because you never know when that kind of goal in a 4-2 loss to Dundee in the end of February doesn't mean much when it's in a playoff semi-final against whoever we play and it's an OT and you get one that does go your way. Yeah, these things have a funny way of coming around, don't they?
Yeah, that's the only way. It's a long season, 64 games between the cup and regular, and then a playoff burst of hopefully 4 games. I mean, it's a drop in the bucket. It's one play. Next time, I'll just make sure it goes bar down to the back of the net. That's all you can kind of do, right, guys? So, for us, it is frustrating because it seemed to be the consensus at the arena that it was in, but just the refs saw something else. So it is what it is.
It wouldn't be a hockey season without storylines. I mean, like, I can't believe it's nearly March, but if you think back a few months ago, like before a puck had even dropped, there were storylines. You know, how are Blaze going to do? You know, people seem to have written us off. You were coming back from a year essentially away, and the story with that was, well, how quickly is he going to be able to get up to speed? And as it turns out, buddy, pretty damn quickly.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of credit that goes around for that. I think it starts back at home. I have a good support system. The coaches I work with, my best buddy trained me last summer. He actually just got promoted to general manager of that gym, but he works with a lot of athletes. So shout out to Jake Fletcher. And then a couple different coaches I worked with. Justin Rye, who runs Kaivo. He's Connor Bedard's and Kent Johnson's skills coaches. He's an absolute wizard. And then my longtime skills coach, Darren Vetterl, helped me too. So yeah, I'd say those 3 get a lot of credit. My dad for being in my ear and kicking my butt every day too, even in my 20s. So that was all really positive. And then all the friends I still train with who are still playing. And then girlfriend, obviously, kind of always being chirping in my ear that she thought I should and could come back. And it's been a good support system, parents. And then, yeah, coming in here, kind of turn into August 20th, 21st, I think when I got here. I mean, right from the minute I landed, Ethan Kane, I was bleary-eyed and absolutely exhausted from the time change. And he was just a ball of energy. And then Kevin, Vinny, all the guys, all the players, Ed, Stu, like the whole organization, top to bottom, all the physios, like just getting me ready to go. And yeah, it's I know I'm kind of doing almost an award speech here, but a lot of people I owe thank yous to kind of to get me going and from basically taking so much time off. So yeah, it's a lot of really good people and a lot of credit to the staff, owners all the way down. So yeah, but it's a lot of good stuff so far, but I mean, 12 massive games here to close it out to secure hopefully some top 4 positioning. We're right in that mix, and then let's go win a trophy.
Yeah, I think there's certainly the consensus that we can absolutely do that. I mean, we play well in all 3 zones. On our day, we can beat anybody. And we're a fun team to watch. Offense doesn't seem to be a problem. And that's been not necessarily the case in years gone by. There've been times. I mean, I was looking at it the other day, like having guys that, and points on everything, but having like 4 or 5 guys in the top 10 is ridiculous. Like the last time we did that was the COVID season, where we were in a similar boat. Like there was a really awesome feel good vibe through the team. We were playing well. We were beating everybody that that would come our way. And then, the world kind of got a little bit crazy there, and we never got to see what would happen next. But it looks like we're going to get to see what happens next here, which is awesome. And being paired up with a good old friend of yours in Chase Greasock has probably helped this whole season be that extra bit special. I mean, you guys have had a bunch of different guys on your lines, like as a third guy. No matter who's been on there, they've complimented you. It must have just been such a pleasure to be on the ice with Chase, with whoever's been with you night in, night out.
Yeah, I'm smirking because I'm thinking about, you guys all remember his preseason. So I think I collected some pretty cheesy primaries, just flipping the puck out to him, walking him walk down the left wing there, and just snap goals on MKS and Kiev. So like things like that, like getting me going, that helped. And then kind of felt really good just going into the year together. There's obviously a friendship off the ice. I think in a lot of ways it probably grew even more this year. Guys are funny this way, and I think, not to get yelled at by different groups, but I think guys are different than girls this way, where you don't see somebody for years and then you just kind of pick up right where you left off. Whereas I think sometimes females do a lot better job of checking in, and guys aren't like that. So like Jason and I didn't even necessarily talk a lot between Miami. Now we the odd text here and there, and then it just picks up like we're best buddies again. So I think that friendship off the ice leads to that kind of chemistry you see on the ice, and that genuine joy for each other when we have success. And then that basically, like you said, just made the year that much more special, easier to transition. And like I said, when one of your really good friends is having success like he is right now, leading the league and goals and points, I mean, it's that much more special, right?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a special guy on your line at the minute in Kimmy, obviously the team captain. And, you look at the goal that you pick up at home on Sunday. It's a lovely direct play. He's got great vision. He's got great hockey IQ. He knows you go in there, you blow past your guy, he hits you with a pass. And, I was thinking from when Kimmy's first year was here, that was the kind of thing he was doing all the time, except he was in your position. So, and we've seen how you score goals and how you create goals. He must be a lot of fun to have in that unit.
Yeah, so I know we obviously have a lot of good players. So like Kevin had actually talked a little bit about potentially the three of us pairing up right off the get-go. And then he saw a couple practices where Grayson was with us and Kim was with Luch to start. And then they had, I think, Aldi, Sightsee, and Crest together. And he's like, oh, I kind of like these combos. We'll stick with this. And then Chase had 1,000,000 goals to start the preseason. He went, oh, this probably works. But now that we're kind of getting the opportunity to play together, I would say Kim's obviously a really smart player. I mean, everyone knows what a great person he is and how much energy he has. But in terms of his hockey IQ, I think sometimes it's forgotten about, actually. And considering he came from Sweden, which, and especially the Allsvenskan League, when he was playing there, it's very structured. Shout out to Jacob Stridsberg. We've been watching a decent amount of Allsvenskan and SHL here. He's my roommate, but you don't realize like the Swedes are very, very smart and structured. So Kim has that ability. It's not just that he's really skilled or he can skate well, but you're right, he's very smart. So I don't think he really has an area. Like he could be the guy scoring, he could be the guy making plays, he could be the guy forechecking and hitting guys. Like he does everything quite well. And I think he complements us unbelievably well. Like you said, it's going to be pretty exciting to see what we can do here. And yeah, it might be looking back going, I wonder what it would have been if it had been 54 games, right? So, but I think offensively there was you could see a bit of that chemistry on different shifts, and it's just putting that together for 60 minutes now.
Yeah. By the way, you mentioned Strids in there. How's he getting on? Because obviously it sucks the way that his season's ended.
Yeah. Honestly, like he's doing better than I would be doing, I think, in his situation. He's being a pretty stoic, mature person about it, and he's definitely putting on a really good face. But obviously, it sucks. We've obviously, again, I mean, developed a genuine friendship here, at least on my end. I don't know what he'd say about me on the other end, but it just sucks. It's the aspect of sports. It's maybe the worst. And not only was he a great player for us, it was really fun. Like I was saying to him, isn't it funny? The last game we make a nice play together where I drop a puck to him and he scores. And I was like, oh, we fuck, because I kept telling him for about 7 games, like just keep jumping in the rush. I'm gonna hit you. I'm gonna hit you. I'm gonna hit you. And he scores. And then that fluky play in the kill, he goes into the wall and yeah, it sucks, but he's putting on a good face. He's very fortunate, like the way he's being treated by the club. Like they're looking after his surgery. He's got good access to physios, so yeah, the club's looking after him, which is amazing. Yeah, his surgery I believe is coming up on the 3rd. So thoughts and prayers are with him through that, and then his recovery. But yeah, he's putting on a good face, better than I would, but it still sucks, like I said.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, definitely pass all our love on to Jacob because we love him. He's awesome. He's been great to have around this year for sure. One final thing from me, and then I'll let Stu talk at you for a while because I know I have a habit of doing that. When I was mentioning earlier that like we can pretty much beat everybody, I think the one team that we've struggled against record-wise is Nottingham, but I think I share the same opinion that Kevin has on this. Apart from that 1-9-0 game. The scorelines have not really reflected how evenly matched the two teams are. Do you share that opinion, or what are your thoughts on how that series against the Panthers has gone?
Yeah, it's funny. Like I would say, I mean, I'll flip this on you and answer with a question here. Who do you guys think has been the best team we've played that we've looked at and you've said, yeah, they're really good?
That we've played
That
against?
that you would say has been the best team in the league, in your opinion?
That's tough. That's tough. You know what? You know why it's tough? It's because two teams have put themselves in similar positions in that Belfast have tried to re-recruit a team that won a Grand Slam and Sheffield are defending a Grand Slam.
Yeah.
So, they've both got a lot of positive attributes. I've liked us against everybody though, Mike, to be honest.
So the funny thing though is you just mentioned two teams that I think we've played better against than Nottingham, and they have better records. That's why I was putting you on the spot there. I don't know if Scott and Stu would agree with that, and the funny thing too is I actually think Belfast is the hardest team to play against. Especially I'll say their D. They probably have the best D core in my opinion in the league. Their gaps, their ability to challenge at lines, ability to keep, they join the rush, they make a good first pass. Like high level defensemen. We've played them better than Nottingham, result wise at least. So
Well, I think
that's
sorry,
interesting.
Michael. I think with Belfast, we took 5 out of 12 from them. The last game at home. I mean, the first 2 games at home, I think they came in quite hard. But that last home game I had against them, I thought we were definitely the better team, and not many teams take points in Belfast. So I think you're right in saying that the Belfast and the Nottingham games, I think, have been the toughest for us. But I've also thought we played really well.
And I think the thing is, and not to say we've played badly against Nottingham. I'm just using that as a comparison. I just said, who do you think are the best teams? You didn't say Nottingham. Yet I think we've had the most trouble with them results wise. So I do think we can beat anybody, to answer your question. And I think it's closer than probably the results show. I mean, like we kind of threw a game away. We were up 1-0. That was unfortunate losing that game. Like I don't use that phrase, but it's just we probably let that one slip away is maybe the better way to put that. We maybe deserve a better result in that 3-0 game on New Year's Day. Our team actually played really, really well in that game. It's one of the few games I've come out of my career and go, we got shut out, but we were great tonight. The 9-2 game we're battle over the place, like top to bottom. I don't think there's a guy in the room who probably looks at that and goes, that was my best. And for whatever reason, it happens. Lose to them in OT. That's a close game. The 2-1, like I said, is close. So like the 6-4 game was a bit of a gong show. Like I don't know. My point is kind of trying to be thoughtful with my answer to you guys and kind of talking around it. Like for some reason, yes, but I don't, like you said, I think Ed, to answer your own question, it's not as bad as some of the results show, but then again, you give up 6 goals, you're probably not winning many games. We give up 6, 6, 9, like you're not winning those games, right? So finding a way to be a little bit more sure on our defensive zone, and then I think offensively we know we can produce. So
Very good way of talking around it. I appreciate that.
Has helped certainly in that area. But you've actually, if I've done the research right, you've got assists with 8 of the guys this year. So your assists have actually been spread out across the team. It hasn't just been focused on Chase. So why do you think you've been able to sort of generate that chemistry really across the board? And maybe not just yourself, but the team in general. Where do you think that sort of Blaze chemistry is coming from this year?
I mean, I think it starts with, I know it's cheesy, but it starts with liking your group, and spending time together. Doesn't mean you can't play with guys you don't like, but I guess with our group, we do spend time together and get to know each other. We talk, we listen. There's a willingness to listen and communicate with each other. Like you'll notice that with Kim. Like Kim, I can talk to plainly, even though he's much more experienced professionally than I am. But I'll be like, Kim, do this and go there, and he'll be like, okay. And then he does it and goes there, and he scores 3-3 goal. Like it's not like he's looking at me, or if I'm like, Kim, look for this. Like he doesn't. There's no egos with that, which is really good. So I think people listen to each other when they're saying like, let's try this, let's do this, let's go here, let's go there. I think the thing is we have a good group, right? Like we have a lot of guys who can put the puck in the net. That's another reason. Power play has been successful. I'm sure some of those are maybe exclusively on power play. That ties into it. So I think it's a mix of that chemistry, checking your egos and communicating, guys working hard to get to the right spots, and then having good players who can score.
And how much of that comes down to the recruitment? So before even the season starts, like getting the right guys in the room, how much of that it comes from the work that Kevin and Zach did in sort of making sure that all the guys brought in were the right sort of guys?
I think it's massive. If you don't recruit the right group, I mean, you could have the best coach in the world, but if you're not working with talent that's up to snuff in the league to compete with some of these big clubs, you're not going to be able to produce. You're going to be losing 9-2 consistently, right? So, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head with the recruitment's where it all starts, and that's a hats off to those two for doing a great job bringing in a lot of quality players.
You mentioned about doing things that you don't like, and I'm not going to infer that you have a role on the ice that you don't like, but we've seen you in recent weeks. You've been out on the wing. You've played predominantly centre this year. What's the favourite position? Where do you prefer to play, centre or wing, and why?
I prefer playing center. I think you can impact the game more as a center. I think it leans into my strengths more, particularly as a guy who has predominantly been a passer this year. You get to facilitate by getting more touches on the puck. I think for me too, I'm at my best when I am getting touches on the puck through the neutral zone, out of the D zone, kicking out to wings, driving the net, et cetera, right? So the thing for me is if you are trying to get pucks out to the 8 guys you mentioned, right? Like getting those assists out so guys can score. Center gives you a little bit more opportunity to get those touches to the neutral zone and swinging. You have an impact on the defensive zone. I would say more so because you get to battle more down low. I definitely prefer a center. I don't feel as natural on the wing, but it's the old hockey cliche. You do the job that you're given to help the team win, and if that's playing wing at different times, it'll be playing wing to help the team, and if it's at center, it's being at center, being the best version of yourself you can be.
And you mentioned about battles there. One other thing I was kind of picked up on when the goal that did count on Sunday, like as Ed said, you kind of got yourself into position. But one of the things that you did on the way through was winning that one-on-one battle. So it was that transition in the neutral zone where you kind of shrug the defenseman off and you get your stick down on the ice. How important is it as a centerman to win those one-on-one battles and sort of be good at those fundamentals of just, stick on the ice in the right time?
Yeah, I don't think it's a center specific question, to be honest with you. I think stick on the ice, being able to win battles is probably fundamental to our team success and identity in general. In games you're not engaged winning battles, you're going to have difficulty having success just all over the ice, defensively, offensively, neutral zone, at the lines, right? You guys know hockey pretty well. Like that's what you see. So I think the at center absolutely matters because you probably are a little bit more of a rover all over the ice in different places. But it's fundamental to everybody to have success, basically, to do those things.
Yeah. And one final one from me. You mentioned a few moments ago about, sort of getting on a roll and winning a trophy. Obviously, that's the goal. What's the priority? If there's one thing that you need to do, or the Blaze needs to do, to get to that point of winning a trophy in the playoffs, what is that priority?
I think it's a lot of things go into what I'm going to say here, but it's playing a full 60. Our team for stretches of time and weekends and games and periods is dominant and can play better than anybody. But there's stretches where, frankly, we have passengers. We have guys not buying in to what their role is, and yeah, we sometimes just been periods where myself included, our best players haven't been our best players, and if we have 20 guys pulling the rope in the same direction, we're really dangerous. Like you don't want to get us in the quarters, you don't want to get us in a 1-game knockout. Um, I think we have the best goalie in the league. Like when Matt's on, he's an absolute stud. We all know that. It's ridiculous. Um, he's hot, and we got 18 players pulling in the same direction, and Willie and Matty and Nat, there are 20 guys. Like we're really dangerous, but it's putting that full 60 together and not waiting till we're down 2-0, 3-0, not coming out 8 minutes into the game, seeing how the game's going. Everyone's trying to get into it. It's hitting that gas pedal, right down, pedal to metal, right off the bat, and being able to play the full 60.
Michael, how has the room evolved as the season's gone on? Because when I spoke to Kevin at the start of the season, he says, I've got a plan for every player. I want them to do this and do that. You mentioned that you said to Kim, I want you to go down into the corner, and we might get a goal from that. Where is Kevin giving you a bit more rope in game situations and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I think it's a situational one, right? Like he has a lot of trust in the players, and it's trying to read. There's times where we talk about managing the game, obviously not taking risks and taking chances, and then there's opportunity where it's very, very open. So I would say he's a pretty consistent coach in terms of the rope. But there's conversations about that, right? Like game to game, where shoring up your defensive play is usually the conversation. Offensively, it's hard to talk about production sometimes because you can do everything right, play the best game of your life, hit 3 posts, and not have a point. And there's games where maybe you do have 3 points, but you're abysmal defensively, and you cost your game because you lost 4-3. So I think it's a lot of defensive conversations if it's tightening the rope, but he doesn't really talk a lot about offensive side of things, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And obviously we brought in Brady Puteau, who seems to have settled in really well. What's he been like around the room?
Great guy. Another Western Canadian, which is always great. Fortunately a dub guy though. So we have to talk about Major Junior with him and Aldi, which is just, I liked Aldi being on an island by himself. But for those of you who get it. If you don't, it's all good. But we have a lot of college guys. I won't be much of a debate anymore. But yeah, really, really good guy. He played with actually my trainer. I mentioned Jake Fletcher back home at Regina. So yeah, small world. But no, it's been good to have him, and we're fortunate to have him.
Brilliant. Ed, Stu, anything else from you guys?
I think the one thing that to touch on something that you said about tightening up things defensively, you get to this point of the season because the league is a sleeper league. Like it's so much better than a lot of people give it credit for, that you really do see it become a game of mistakes, don't you? Like, it's the case the whole way through, right? But like in September, everybody's making mistakes, and you can get some crazy scorelines, 7-5 and whatever. And certainly we've been involved in those. But it's crazy how, like, when you get to leagues that are as good as ours and beyond, at this time of year, those mistakes just end up under the microscope, don't they? It's crazy how that works out.
Yeah, I mean, you said it. It's this time of year. It's a combination of the factors you just identified, right? Sleeper league, a lot of good players. and yeah, the stakes are a little bit higher, right? For everybody, playoff positioning, win a title for the guys up top. What for those looking, right? Sheffield's knocking, nipping at the heels of Belfast knocking the door. Like every game against them matters. Every game for Belfast matters. There's seeding for us where we want to end up as high as possible, right? So like it's you're right. Like it's just that's how the game works. When those mistakes happen, it's put under a microscope, and in some ways it's nitpicked in ways that sometimes are absurd. I think hockey's a funny sport because you can try one thing can lead to another, and you can say there's a bunch of things that were, caused the next. But the truth is, it's a hard line for I imagine for a coach because you want your best players to play free in order to produce. It's part of the reason why we have 4 guys in the top 10 in scoring, like you mentioned. But you also need them to, know when the time is to take a shot and to maybe take a risk. So, yeah, it's a hard thing to manage. I think that's just the way the game is. Honestly, at any decent level, the mistakes are what's capitalized on.
We've talked about this a bit before off air, and then I will promise I'll shut up and let you get on with your evening. We've talked about this a few times, and I think the last time we talked about it on the record, I don't think you'd played a game yet when we had you on the podcast back in the summer. But like with going back onto that whole the Elite League's a bit of a sleeper league thing. You've now had Cardiff win a Continental Cup, for example, which is pretty well respected. Sure, like one below the Champions League, but like that's still an incredible achievement to win that. When you talk to the boys back home in the summer, and the phone rings and someone says, "Hey, Mikey, I know you played in Coventry. I've had a call from this coach in this team. What do you think about the league? Like, should I come here? Should I come and play for this team?" What would you say to them? What would be your review of your life in the Elite League?
Avoid Coventry because Ed, Stu, and Scott will be bugging you at 9 p.m. for podcasts. No, I'm just kidding, guys. Sorry, couldn't help that one. No, I think it doesn't get the respect it deserves, but you hear that again and again. Like, do you guys remember Darian Craighead on Glasgow from last year?
Yep, I
So I
remember his
skated with him
dad.
in the
That's how
summer.
long I've been around.
Yeah. So I skated with him a bit in the summer, and he's a hell of a skilled player, by the way. He's having a ton of success. Denmark, Norway. I've got that backwards, but I think it's Denmark.
Yep.
Yeah, top
Aalborg
point
is
in the
Denmark,
league, he
correct?
was.
Yeah, so he's a hell of a skilled player, right? But like he's well over a point per game. There wasn't a point per game here. I know, although in his defense, Glasgow didn't have the best year last year. But my point about him is he is a great player, very skilled. And he comes back and he's like, no, it's a really good league, Riggs. Like you'll see, right? So like people are, and I'll be another guy to echo that out in my area, and another guy will come back and echo it in that area. And it's like that is kind of the way it's going, and it's starting to the needle's starting to move. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw those recent rankings where I think we were ranked 14th globally in leagues. I don't know who put that out, but the point is like you are seeing that credibility, I would say, grow. And it'll probably continue to as there's more quality players come in, and teams in the Champions League do well. And I mean, the other thing that people don't like to hear, but as guys move into what are regarded as better leagues too, and they have success, that also reflects well in the league, right? So all those things go hand in hand, right? Winning Continental Cups, performing unbelievable at Champions League, guys moving on, good players continuing to choose to stay. Like, Chase and I were talking about Balmus in Sheffield and how he's had great success and he keeps staying there, right? So like guys doing that reflects well in the league too. So I think all those things are going to continue to build on it. And obviously also hockey in the UK is more of a it's more of a I'm trying to find the right words, but it's more of a big deal than you realize. I mean, you've seen that it's the 5th highest attendance sport, right, for in the UK. So like people do like it and recognize it. It's just it's somewhat in certain pockets. I think the hardest thing is going to be, how does the game grow? How does the parity in the league maintain? What happens with Fife? Like those are the difficult things. Growing the game at the younger level as you see different rink companies. No comments on that, but the not necessarily making it as accessible to young athletes. Those are the things that'll be difficult, because you see Brits, like the guys in our team, like they love the game and they're good, but you talk about how much they skated when they're kids, it's tough, right? So even I coached back home. I wanted to coach here. It was tough because you need to get all your even though I could have been certified, it's tough to get ice then. So my long-winded answer yet is the league is very good. The people in it are great. Teams are having success. It's great for North Americans to come to a place where everyone speaks English. Like, that's very convenient. There's a ton of imports, right? Like, there's a lot of really, really, really positive things. But I think the tough thing for the league is going to be maintaining parity between teams. And then the second thing is also always going to be, until you grow the game at the youth level, you're still not going to see that. So many kids are in football. You're not going to see the game grow until I think you invest in facilities. And that's going to be the hard thing about the league's good, but how does it take a step into that top 10?
I agree with you, sir. It's funny. Newfoundland disappeared from the East Coast last season after, being Kelly Cup winners not that long prior. That represents essentially a whole province. No one bats an eye, and then Bloomington pop up, for example, down the road. So in the Elite League, you have 10 teams. Like you say, everyone's got that question mark of what's going to happen with 5. And it shifts the whole dynamic, whereas you can lose a team that represents a whole province, and in that league, no one really cares, which is kind of hilarious. But no, Mike, thanks for coming on, my friend. I'm sorry, prattling on. I could do this all night.
No, you're good. You're good. I was given for people who are wondering, I think the first time we did a podcast, we talked for like an hour and a half before we started the conversation in the summer. So I told Ed, I was like, how long do you think this will be tonight? And he's like, I don't know, 30-ish minutes. And I was like, no, that's totally fine. I just don't know if we can go for 2 hours till 11 at night.
Well, we're only 32 minutes, so I feel like I've stuck to contract pretty well there.
No, it's unreal.
Yeah. What I don't want to have when I wake up in the morning is an angry WhatsApp from Kevin complaining that we've kept the players up too late on the podcast. So it now is the time to depart, I feel, and wish you best of luck for the weekend.
Hey, thanks, guys. We'll have to chat soon. I haven't seen you guys as much lately. I feel like I've been missing you guys at the rink. So don't be strangers.
We'll check in soon.
Michael.
Yeah.
Cheers. All the best.
Good chat.
That I thought we were going to get an hour. I did. We could have got an hour there. I loved his answers, that it wasn't just yes, no. And there's a guy that cares there. He really cares about what he's doing this season and determined to get a trophy for us.
Oh, absolutely. And Mike's a thinker. He really does think about things, and takes his time over his answers. He'll talk around it in like a podcast setting because it puts him on the spot. But like, I think he just fits in with that role. And it was something he said about like sometimes your best players haven't been your best players, and he's clearly like talking about himself because he is one of our best players. But I think like if you're Kevin and Zach, having a guy like Mike who thinks about his role within the team, his position in the team, what he's doing from shift to shift, what he's doing from scenario to scenario, the guys all around him, like that's a really, really strong piece of the puzzle. And frankly, when we were talking him in the summer, and he was talking about, I went to Canucks camp and I kind of was there as a walk-on, and actually I ended up kind of moving up and down the lineup and was playing with some of their top guys by the end of camp, and they kept me in Abbotsford. Are you surprised? Like, Riggs has been great, and sneaky, hopefully if all the cards align, we can bring him back. We can bring some of the, the other guys around him, Chase back, guys that have been really successful here, and build a core. Because that's been something that I know we've somewhat struggled with. I think maybe we were spoiled in our history with Calder and Carlson and Martin and guys like that. You bring them back every year and they're just rock stars. And, hopefully maybe with how Kevin operates in a slightly different way than, some coaches do, and how that culture he's built is slightly different to how others do it. Maybe that'll precipitate bringing guys like Riggs back, because he could be here for a while and win some silver with us, like you say.
Hopefully. Stu, your job as co-coms is not easy when you got to break down plays, but there's certain players in this team that have made your job joyful this season, and when your voice goes a little bit high, it's always here. It's good to hear.
Oh, absolutely. And particularly when You see a really good goal in it, and you can't contain the excitement because you're there as a Blaze fan, but also a co-commentator, and you're trying to so desperately to be neutral, but you want to scream as well at the same time. It's sometimes a bit challenging, but the offensive output this year has really been fun to watch. It's been, and I think what's made it the most fun is the variety. It hasn't just been the same. Oh, we're gonna pass it to the guy on the point, he's gonna blast it, or we're looking for the guy in the slot. There's a little bit of everything about the Blaze, and they find that creativity. They find different ways to score, and I think that's also one of the reasons why we're probably difficult to play against at times. Because it's really difficult to sort of see what's coming. Defensemen are jumping into the play left, right, and centre. It's from a commentary perspective, you have so much to talk about. And it's just, it's really easy to just describe what you can see and explain some of the things as to, like the play from Regush at the weekend. He shrugs the guy off, he creates himself a little bit of space, then he gets his stick down. Those little things, you just explain it and then it works.
Where do you feel like we get our success from the most in the last few games of the season? Because at times, a perfect example is the game in Glasgow. We can't be doing the 3-goal leads. We just can't be doing that. Teams know us a bit better now. I know we come back and won, but what do we need to be doing to cut that out and get as high a seeding as we want? Ideally, we don't want to be finishing 6th and Guildford are hot on our tails.
Do you want this one, Stu, or shall I have this one?
You go. I'll follow up.
All right, fine. So I always think that using Glasgow as an example, there's always that excuse of, you've got the bus legs and this, that, and the other, but it's March for all intents and purposes. Like, we're a few days away from it. Everybody's done that trip by now. Everybody knows how to prepare themselves. It's a good league. These guys are professionals. They look after each other, look after each other. Like that shouldn't be the case. And I've thought long and hard about this, and I don't know whether it's just a case of maybe you know what you're going to do coming in system-wise, and you have a shift where something doesn't go your way. There's a variable that maybe you weren't anticipating, and then you adjust to it. And it could be something silly as, I don't know, you end up snapping a skate lace, and then you got to go do that on the bench, and all of a sudden you're flustered. Those little variables can go a long way. Or it might be that this league's actually really good. And Glasgow, with respect, I think maybe people have, slept on them a little bit this year. And actually, they were pretty good to start the game. And most games this season have had fine margins. And, we were talking about that with Regs, and it was like, okay, those Nottingham games, apart from maybe 1 or 2 where we weren't that great, they were very, very close, even if the scoreline didn't reflect that. So there's probably a bit of that as well. But you're absolutely right. We've got aspects of our team that are hugely successful. We have fantastic special teams. We're, if not the best power play in the league right now, right up there, top 3. PK, similar. Like, if it's not the top PK in the league right now, it's top 3. So we know those areas of our game can come good. We know offensively we're very creative, so that no matter what combinations we're putting out there, we can score goals. But it's just playing to our tempo and being able to ride through those times where, to quote Kevin, hockey gets weird sometimes, and be able to do that from 0-0-1 on the clock till 60 on the clock.
I would agree. And I think in particular, it's that last point. It's about playing to our tempo. I think the Blaze have been most successful this year when they're kind of dominating the speed of the game. Like they're playing quick, they're skating hard, they're getting into the other team's faces, being aggressive on the forecheck, etc. And it's noticeable, on Sunday when things weren't clicking, it didn't seem like everything was going in that right way, and that sort of the sort of the level of which the team was skating and the forecheck, everything just felt perhaps a little bit off. And it does happen sometimes. Everyone has a bad day in the office, but I think it's controlling it and playing the game the way we want to play it, and not let other teams sort of play the game how they want to.
Yeah, I think Dundee. I mean, Dundee had a really good 40, the last 40 against us, so they were probably buoyed by their last performance here. I thought we turned over the puck a little bit too cheaply in both games over the weekend. And I think that affected our play in just how good we are in the transition. We just weren't performing to the levels we know we can, and I think that's a positive in a way because we've not been outshone by another team. It's kind of been our own downfall. And the no goal call, it comes at a massive time. What was it? A minute and a half to go in the second. It would have made the game a 1-goal game. And maybe that was a downfall for us as well.
But again, it's what I said. It's fine margins, right? And that's a variable that we couldn't control. It was one of those things, like Reek said, you could hit 3 posts and have the best game of your life and you come away with nothing to show for it. Okay, it changes the complexion of the game. But then, we make a big mistake. We blow some coverage on Checkos. He gets a breakaway and scores. It's just fine margins sometimes. And, we transition very well, absolutely. But teams like Dundee also do. Sheffield, one of their really key attributes offensively is their ability to come forward. And I think maybe slightly more casual onlookers would say, oh, well, traditionally we'd expect Dundee to, be that slightly run and gun style team, yada, yada, yada. Whereas actually like one of the best teams in the league play exactly the same way in that regard and have that skill set. And so do we. So, when you have teams like that, it can be fine margins. Yeah, for sure. Then there are teams that will play, a bit more bang and crash or maybe a little bit more structured, whereas we're a little bit more free flowing. But yeah, those variables, those fine margins are really interesting. And you see more and more and you understand it more and more the deeper you go when you realize what everybody's doing, what everybody's capable of. There's no like really big places to hide these days. Everybody knows what everybody's going to do. It's just controlling what you can control and implementing your game plan better than anybody else.
And Stu, with Dundee, that's a talented roster there. They haven't got the results that they would probably want, especially at home. And Lefebvre was cut a very disappointed figure after their game on Saturday. But you look at up and down that lineup, some talent in that squad.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, and they've just added to it with the guys that they've brought back during the middle of the season with Philippe Sanch, Spencer Nass. They're really good players. 30 plus goal scorer in the elite league, and they've got Dryden Dow at the back end, who I think is an absolutely fantastic defenseman. He's second in the league to Mike Regush for assists. So he's controlling the sort of like the game from the back end as well. They're a really good side. I like their Brit core as well. They've got Ingles, McBean. They've got some good core players there that have been around. It looks now as well like they're getting some good goaltending as well. So there's things are coming right for them, and they're that's what you want as a team, regardless of where you are in the league. You want to be sort of coming good in March, in April, as you sort of get towards the playoffs. And
it rarely happens that 1 to 4 go through to the Nottingham weekend. So there's going to be upset there. Boys, I've got to play it. I've got to play this just one more time. And I don't know if you want to change our minds, but it's a goal, isn't it? Yeah, it's a goal. It's back bar.
It's on the back bar. It's just at the back bar, just behind the crossbar. So there isn't much in it, I think. And then it comes down. I think it clips the crossbar as it comes out, and then hits Fisk on the back, and then it bobbles.
Enough.
Yeah,
I know, but it's margins in games, and then we're fans at the start at the end of the day, so we are frustrated by it. But we mentioned about having the four of the guys in the top 10 and for the points. It is great to see. Lovely to see. Chase as well, leading 25 goals, some achievement.
One of the things I love about that as well is And Reeks talked about it. Like those two, they're good buddies. They've had a great partnership. Sightsee and Luciani have had a similar thing on that other unit. That you can put whoever you want with them, and it seems to just work out. Audie's doing a great job there at the minute. His form of late, maybe just in the turn of the year, maybe a little bit before, has been electric. But in terms of the two personalities between Reeks and Chase, it's so funny because they're like chalk and cheese. Chase is a slightly more quiet, reserved guy, whereas Reeks could talk all day. So I just love that those opposites have complemented each other, if you like. It's kind of fun. But look, I mean, when I keep mentioning this, and I don't sound like a broken record too much, but like that COVID season, there were so many similarities to where we are right now.
I agree though.
But even to the point of where like Luke Ferrara led the league in goals that year. Okay, so we've got Griesok doing that right now. Yanni Larkinen led the league in assists that year. We've got Reegs doing that right now. Our special teams, if I remember rightly, were really good. We had a couple of other guys in the top point scorers. So Charlie Corcoran, if you remember him, God, I wish he hadn't retired when he did because he was so good. Andrew Johnston as well, which was a weird one, how he didn't work out in Nottingham. Those guys are all in the top 10 too. So like it really does feel for me like we're going to have this weird parallel coming into the postseason where we're in the wake of that team or in the footsteps of that team, however you want to spin it.
I like the spin. You spin away, mate.
I'll try.
Stu?
I want to agree with the point, but I'm going to put my sort of reserved, cynical hat on. The form that team had after Christmas was by far and away the best team in the league at that point in time. And where the Blaze sit at the moment is not the best form team in the league. And that to me is the biggest parallel that you need to draw. And that's where the differential sits at the moment. That's not to say it can't happen because there's still a month worth of hockey left. There's a lot of games to play. You can generate that momentum. You can get yourself into good habits. And we've seen it before. The Blaze got to the final when they were 8th. They won it from 6th. I can remember the right numbers, even if other people can't. But we won it from 6th position, and any team can do it. The league does have that level of parity where teams on any given night can beat each other if you've got your form going and you're playing well coming into the end of March, early April.
Well, 20 years since we did the Grand Slam, 10 years since we last won the playoffs. So, if you want to do the stars aligning, we do it. But it is a massive weekend for our season and everyone's season. And we go into Sheffield. Sorry, our graphic there, Belfast are on 63 points. So they're 5 points behind the Belfast Giants. They're still in the race. 5 points is not an unsurmountable challenge, but Belfast have got a favourable run it. So Sheffield can't afford to lose to us. We're trying to battle, but to get 4th, 5th, then the big game on Sunday is Guildford Flames. I don't want to say we need a 4-point weekend, but I think we need a 4-point weekend.
Well, we had one of these weekends, a couple of weeks ago, where we beat Cardiff and Sheffield, I think it was, after having a little bit of a slumpy slump in terms of the form there. We have a habit of pulling it out of the bag when we need to. So, yeah, but like you say, the league right now is so fun. It's so close in the kind of the middle. We could finish anywhere realistically from 3rd down to 7th, maybe even 8th if things go horribly. So we talked about stories earlier, right? The story of the Blaze are going to come 10th. They don't look great. They've got a number 1 center who hasn't played for a year. How's this all going to pan out? It's just, it's just a story that's been developing throughout the last few months. So,
and Saturday night's game, Stu, the pressure really is on the Steelers. So we need to go and upset them. Yeah,
you're right. The pressure very much is in Sheffield right now. They need the 2 points to stay in touch with Belfast. Like you said, Belfast have got some pretty favourable fixtures over the next month. You certainly will see, the way that Nottingham are playing at the moment. They're potentially knocking at that door. It's a big weekend at the end of the season as well. Nottingham played Belfast twice in a double header. So the Panthers just need to get within 3 by the last weekend of the season. They're not looking to close it. They just need to be in touch. And then, that's so you really are starting to see sort of like everyone really push. And you said, we need a 4-point weekend. I think every team's going to be saying that now. Everyone's going to be like, actually, you look at, the pack of 4, 5, 6 at the moment with Cardiff, Coventry and Guildford, 48, 47, 47 points. You have Glasgow looking on in 41 points thinking, we just need one of them to slip up and we have a good weekend. We're up there
2
as well.
games in hand as well.
Yeah, so 4-point weekends for everyone are impressive, but, the chasing for a title, it does add that pressure. But a lot of those guys up in Sheffield have been part of title-winning teams, part of Grand Slam, so they kind of know what it takes to win. And we, the Blaze, need to walk in there and just, it's not our noise, it's not our job. We just need to go in there and play a solid 60 minutes of hockey, as Mike Regush said, and go in and do the job.
Indeed. Boys, have you got anything else you want to bring up? Any other business? No. Well, I have one, and I'm gonna put you. Going to give you. I want some predictions. Belfast going to Nottingham. They are 3 goals ahead in the Challenge Cup semi-final. First question is: can they do something? Can they bring it back? And who is your Challenge Cup winners?
Yeah, I mean they can come back. I don't see why they can't. They have been very, very good of late. You know what? I'll just put it out there. I'm going to say Nottingham come back. Bednard has a great game, all right. Grande has a great game in there, and that's what backstops them to the victory. And then they take it all the way. And then I have to play golf with Stewie in the summer, and he talks about it for the 4 hours that we're out together. But no, I'll be worth hearing.
So Belfast are difficult. They're really good decor, very physical, play well. They're good side, good road record. In the NIC, if Nottingham get the first goal and they get the crowd on their side and it gets loud in there, that's going to be tough. That you can see it. You can see it swinging pretty fast, and I think with the form and the way the teams are playing at the moment, the winner of that tie is going to win the Challenge Cup.
Yeah.
So I don't wish to disparage Cardiff, but the current form would suggest that Belfast or Nottingham are the teams in form over Cardiff, certainly at the moment. Particularly given if it's a Belfast Cardiff final, with the results just at the weekend. You'd put Belfast as favourites for that one.
The other thing as well that maybe we haven't really talked about too much is that Nottingham have done pretty well this season without a lot of their top guys. They've had a lot of injuries, and even Hugo Wara and Otto Nieminen have been fine, but they've not been as dynamic as they were. They picked up some form against Blaze. I don't know how their form has been since then, but I think they've kind of been starting to figure it out this year. If they get hot, that's a whole game changer because Hugo Wara is one of the best players in the league on his day. He's phenomenal. Otto Nieminen's great too. And they've had guys like Henbrandt rocking and rolling. So if they can get the whole band on the same page, on the same night at the same time, they're
3 scoring lines, and then mid-season recruitment of Grande, Gara and Fossier. Not done too shabby, have they? So yeah, no, I'll be watching that one. So yeah, it'd be interesting. So you'll go in. Overall winners will be the winners of the tie tomorrow night, and I would have to agree. So thanks, boys. Big thanks to Michael Regush for joining us, and that's it for this episode of Beyond the Blue Line.